Good
Okay.
morning to the Valley Stream students that have joined us today. My name is Kelly Whitney Rivera, and I am the District Director of Guidance in the Valley Stream Central High School District. I'm so glad that you were able to join us today for our fourth Summer Bridge webinar. If you were unable to attend our previous forums, I ask that you use the district website and click the Summer Bridge link on the right. All webinars and weekly newsletters are there for you to check at any time. Today's webinar is Transition from Middle School to High School. We have a panel of staff members from multiple buildings who have worked together to help you. Today we have the following members on our panel. Ms. Kehoe, psychologist from North, Mr. Tofola, library media specialist from North, and Ms. Haddock, who's the psychologist from South, helped us with the presentation, but unfortunately wasn't able to join us today. The format of the forum is a webinar. Our presenters will speak to you and you will see their faces, but they cannot see or hear you. We ask that you utilize the chat feature appropriately and related to the content of the webinar. We appreciate you joining us today and we look forward to seeing you in our school soon. I'd like to hand off to Ms. Kehoe at this time and thank you for being here.
Okay, so the point of today's presentation is to give you guys kind of an overview of what you can expect transitioning from middle to high school. We know it can be a really stressful time for students and their families, especially right now during a time of uncertainty coming back from this pandemic. Some other common concerns that students will have, am I going to make new friends? Will I keep my old ones? What are my classes going to be like? Will I like my teachers? And even though we don't have a crystal ball and we can't tell you the future, we did want to give you some tips and advice to make your transition a little smoother. We just want you to remember that you're not alone. You're not the only student to be nervous. Most, if not all students are nervous, but excited to step into high school. Next slide. So just a brief overview of what we're going to kind of go over today, in this new normal and unprecedented time. We want to remind everyone, be kind and sensitive. We all kind of went through the pandemic at the same time and all had our own struggles. Everyone had a different situation, whether they themselves got sick, maybe a family member or friend. So just being, cognizant of that and respecting each other when we return to the building and just trying to be a little more understanding. Now we know, as we said, the return to school is going to be stressful. So if you do have a problem coming up, talk to a friend, talk to a trusted adult, parent or guardian, because when you talk about these things in vent, it can get some stress off and you could prevent a conflict situation rather than being reactive afterwards. Even though you've been in the middle school and you're probably staying in the same building for this transition to high school, it's still a big change. It could still be difficult. So we all understand that. We're here to support you. We're going to talk about getting involved. Not only will it make your transcript look good, which we'll also get into, but it can help you connect to staff members, other peers, make new friends, and also helps you kind of blow off some steam as well throughout the school year. We want to encourage you to try some things that are new. There may be some clubs you're interested in that aren't usually what you're used to. Don't be afraid to try it. And lastly, I just want to make a point to look over yourself and your fellow peers. If you're worried someone's in trouble, if you're feeling stressed or extra sad, or notice a friend is feeling that way, it's okay to alert a trusted adult, staff member, or parent or guardian so we can get you or the friend the support that they need.
All right. So before we delve deep into this presentation, we have this poll here that I'm really hoping is going to work for you, where we really just want you to think before we go through this process of what is the biggest difference between middle school and high school. And we have a couple things here, that there's higher academic demands, there's more individual responsibility and independence. It's really emphasized. Organizational skills are necessary, that self-advocacy skills are essential, or if there's something else that you think. What's the biggest difference for you between middle and high school? And let's see if this will work. All right, it says attendees are now viewing questions. I'm going to assume that that means that it's working.
Yeah.
I can see it on my end too.
Yay.
I think it's anonymous, right? Their answers?
Yes, your answers are anonymous. All you have to do is click one of these. I can see one of, there you go, there's two of them. Perfect. I'll just give about 10 more seconds. All right, I'm just gonna end the poll right here. Cool. So what we can see here, out of the 3 responses we got, we have individual responsibility and independence being emphasized as the one that is taking 67%, and then other is something else. And if you're that person that put other and you want to just drop it in the chat just so we can hear what it is that you think, then by all means go ahead. We'll try to revisit it later. But all of these things your students or you as a student will definitely encounter as you move to high school. And I do personally have to agree that individual responsibility and independence is extremely emphasized in this transition to middle school and high school. Middle school, you get your hand held a lot. High school, not as much. And that's actually, I think, a great segue into our next slide here. There we go. Okay. So when we were talking about this transition of going from 8th to 9th grade, we really thought about it as sort of an invisible transition. So when you enter high school, you don't change your building, whether that means you're at North, whether that means you're at South, or you're at Memorial. When you go to 8th to 9th, you don't change locations. In other high schools, your middle school is one building and your high school is another building, so it's more apparent. Here, not so much, but that doesn't mean that things aren't changing. So your 7th and 8th grade years, you get your hand held a little bit more. Your high school years, you do have that responsibility emphasized. And I really want you to think about these 2 images right here to kind of see this invisible transition. When you're in middle school in 7th and 8th grade, I always consider it to be like a minor league baseball game, where if you look at this picture here, you have, you know, it's still a game of baseball. You have a crowd. It's not that many people. If you make mistakes in the minor leagues, it's okay. It's there to develop. But when you get to high school, your 9th to 12 years, if you could see here, this baseball stadium, it is a packed house. This is obviously pre-COVID baseball game, but there were more eyes on the game. It's much more of a serious, rigorous experience. You have a lot more invested in it. And if you make mistakes here, it's definitely more apparent. And as a baseball player, if you're making a lot of mistakes, those things travel with you and you might not be valued so much in the major leagues. And this is really what I always think about, like the difference between middle and high school is really the difference between minor league baseball and major league baseball. There's just more eyes, the stakes are higher. You won't be able to see it when you're going from 8th to 9th because again, you'll be in your buildings that you've been in for 7th and 8th. So it's very easy to think like, oh, I did this in 7th and 8th grade and it was fine. But things are a lot more at stake, and that transition happens even though the building doesn't change.
One of the biggest things that you will notice is different is your courses. So when you were in 7th and 8th grade, if you didn't do well, you ran the risk of being left back or retained in a grade. When you get to high school and you're taking high school level courses, you don't really get left back in the sense that you repeat an entire grade. You are required from the time you're in 9th grade until 12th grade to complete a total of 22 credits. Most of you are going to complete more than 22. And in those 22, there are specific areas that you need to get those credits in. In order to get a credit, you need to not only pass the course, you also need to pass an exam. So in 7th and 8th grade, your kind of state assessments were those New York State ELA and math, and some of you chose not to even bother taking them. When we get to high school, you have to pass a Regent exam at the end of a lot of your classes in order to get that state credit. When we're looking at your options, because there's always options, which is kind of cool, you can do a regular Regent diploma or you can do an advanced Regent diploma. The biggest difference is going to be the number of exams and the number of credits in certain areas. For last year, if you were in advanced or accelerated courses, and you passed the course, you got an exemption for the Regent exam. So that last year, let's say you took Algebra 1 and you took Living Environment and you passed the course, you will find that on your transcript this year, you have an E for your Regent exam. When we look at this, this is the breakdown, and you guys, like I think we mentioned, you'll see these on the Summer Bridge website. You can see the presentation along with the video. You'll see it breaks it down by subject area along with your region, and then it talks about additional credits. If we go to the next slide, it breaks it down a little bit more as far as your exams go. So you're going to take one exam in all of the major subjects: math, English, social studies, and science. And you'll see on the next slide, that's broken down. You also have what we call a pathway. So if you're doing your Regent exam, your Regent diploma, you're going to take 5 Regent exams: math, English, social studies, science, and then you'll pick an additional pathway that you want to complete. So you can do it with the CDAS commencement, you can do an additional math, an additional science, an additional social studies, an additional English. You can do a CTE program. You can choose to do that at Central, or you can choose to do that at Barry Tech. And then we also have approved assessments in the arts and in languages other than English, if that's where your strengths lie. So what I'm going to say to you, the best way to decide what the best pathway for you is to get a good relationship with your school counselor and make sure when you're selecting courses that you're looking at the big picture. What do you want your major league career to look like? What do you want your high school career to look like? Do you want to take more science classes than are required? Do you want more math? Are you not really strong in math and you want to get out as soon as you can? Are you waiting to take those Spanish classes or French classes or Italian classes and being done? Those are all the things you guys are going to talk about. So make sure when you meet with your counselor, you really look at your choices in classes, what the long-term plan is, and make sure you talk to your parents about the selections you pick. If you have an IEP or a 504, you're going to have some variations in your requirements. And again, your school counselor will be able to help you figure that out, as well as during your annual review meetings, that'll be discussed. You can go to the next slide.
All right, so I had mentioned before that, there's a lot of the physical space is very similar when you're going from middle to high school, but one of the biggest differences that you're actually going to be able to see and touch this year is that as you enter 9th grade, you're going to notice that we are now 1-to-1. And what that means is that every single student in the school is getting a device. You are getting an HP laptop. It looks like this. Actually, I have one sitting right here. I didn't plan for this, I promise. I was doing something with it this morning. This is what it looks like. It is a Windows 10 computer. It is touchscreen, so as I open it up, the screen is actually touchscreen. It actually folds back completely, so if you wanted to write on it, you absolutely could, and hold it like this. And it runs Office 365 seamlessly, a lot better than some of the other computers that are out there because it's built to do that. Now, mentioning Office 365, Office 365, so if the computer is the hardware that you're using, Office 365 is the software that we're using. You may have experience with it, or you should have experience with it from your 8th grade teacher who was using this when we went remote. Since we went remote, a lot of teachers have become a lot more familiarized with the Office 365 apps, and they're going to be infused into daily instruction now as you're going to be walking around with your device and going to school with your device. So right off the bat, underneath Office 365, you have all of these areas available to you. You have your OneDrive, which is basically your storage space online in the cloud, so that if you are working on a document here and you want to work on it at your home computer, or you want to pull it up on your phone, all of that is synced across all devices with OneDrive. You have Outlook, which is your student email, where you can email your teachers and fellow students. You can send documents back and forth that way as well. You have Microsoft Word online, where you'll be able to type things in real time and type your papers, collaborate with other students at the exact same time. You could be in the same document. The same with PowerPoint, which is similar to what we're presenting here. And the big one is Microsoft Teams. Microsoft Teams is the place where classroom collaboration happens between students and between the teachers. This year, you're going to notice that as you are entering high school, your teachers are going to be able to put your grades within Microsoft Teams. It's going to get synced to our online grading platform that we have. And it's a great place for you to work with others, get information, get files from teachers, and share assignments and turn things in. And there, you may even see that some teachers might be taking advantage of OneNote, but even you as a student can take advantage of it. It's basically a digital notebook where you can put anything inside of it. And it's pretty awesome. You can put PDFs and pictures, and you can write notes and things. It's a really great organizational tool going forward. I think I saw a question pop up or a comment pop up. So before I get off, will there be a student supply list? I would say that once the school year starts and the teacher gets, when your students experience your teachers and then see what they require, that's not just this, they'll come home with that information.
And you know what, guys, I think that's actually being covered during, there are building meetings, and I'm gonna look while we're on. I believe that the buildings are putting those together to get out to you guys as we speak, the supply list, if it's gonna be a little bit different this year than next year.
Okay. The other thing before I leave this slide is that with the computer is going to be a charger, and it's gonna be important that every night, especially on the days that the students are coming into the building, you want this charged up because they're going to be using it in all of their classes. And let's see. There we go. Now with this, I always like to mention that there is a difference between your personal devices and your professional device. So a personal device would be something like my iPhone right here. This is something that I use to talk to my friends, to my family, while I do maybe occasionally like email work people on here. This is my personal device and I own it. And that means that I can download apps on here. I can go on like social media on here. I can talk to my friends on here and maybe not speak in the most professional grammatical English on this device. But when I'm on this device and I'm on a school issued device, the school is giving this to you and it's expecting you to treat it professionally. So everything that you do on here is done on district servers. So we are able to monitor, if need be, like the things that are happening on here. But this is a professional device. You should be using it for professional academic reasons. You should be going on here to do your schoolwork. You should be going on here to do your homework, to do research, and things of that nature. And we expect you to use it as a professional device. I think I saw a question pop.
No, I actually I found the answer. So they're in the process of
okay.
the supply list. So the buildings will send that out as soon as they get that together for you.
Awesome. So just keep in mind for your students is that this is really a professional device and you're getting it, and it is a big responsibility, but it's also one that we feel that you can meet.
So I gotta mute myself. So coming into high school, organizing your time and managing your time is going to be really important, just for your academic success. But first, you have to figure out what works for you. You may already have a system that works for you. You may not. You may want to consider making a daily to-do list, whether it's on your computer or, a paper in front of you, however you prefer to do that. Breaking assignments and large tasks down to smaller steps. So sometimes it's easier to tackle a task when you're breaking it down step by step, and then it's easier to kind of go through and you're making sure you're checking over your work as you go. Mr. Follow, I know you're big on the digital organization. You're muted. Mr. Tofolo, you're muted.
I muted myself because you said I'm taking myself off mute, and I was like, oh, I should do that too. And now I just fell into the trap. But yes, I do use digital organization. I'm a big fan of Outlook, which you will get for Office 365. Your students will have their own email address. And inside of Outlook is a calendar aspect to it. And I put in pretty much anything, due date, you know, I have this paper due. I have to, even down to like mowing the lawn, because if I don't schedule it and I don't get a little ding on my phone, I kind of forget that I have to do it. So yes, I'm a big fan of that.
Ms. Whitney Rivera, I think you said you like to use daily lists. That was your thing?
I end up each morning, I sit down, and when I get to work, and I create a list of the things I have to do. And as the day goes on, I get great pleasure in checking off, like done. It makes me feel better and accomplished. So as I get everything done, I cross it off. And then at the end of the day, I leave it there. So when I come back the next morning, because I can't always get everything done, I carry those things on to the next day's list.
Yeah, I'm a big planner and agenda person. I make planners out of planners. You know, that's kind of always my go-to thing in the morning. I do something similar. I see what I have to do for the day, and it's actually very satisfying just checking everything off. Other thing I do is I use Post-it notes. So if something's coming up I know I have to get done, I'll put it on my desk, I'll put it on my computer, and it's very satisfying to rip off that Post-it note and throw it out when I'm done. I also want to open up to you guys, students, if there's something that you feel like that works for you. We all like to hear ideas, so please feel free to add that in the chat box. You go to the next slide, Mr. Colo. Perfect. So continuing with the organization and time management, we kind of wanted to section it off to make it a little easier to explain. Top left, you'll see the urgent and important stuff. So those are things that are coming up right now, and they're very important in terms of schoolwork, whether it's upcoming deadlines, crises, cramming for a last minute exam, or prepping for a last minute assessment. These are things that are important and you need to do now. Next to the right would be important but not urgent. So these things are really important for you to do, but they may not be coming up as soon as the urgent things. So taking your class notes so that you can look back at, that's very important. Personal development, planned studying for upcoming exams. That may not be coming up right away, but you know they're coming up in the near future, so you want to get a head start. Exercising and your physical health. You know, your self-care is going to be really important in getting through high school. It's not all about academics, it's about taking care of yourself as well. Planning your time appropriately and setting your goals for the year. You know, maybe you had a really bad year last year with math. So this year you're like, I'm really going to focus on math. I'm really going to get that grade up. Now it's going on my transcript. So that's important, you know, but not urgent. Nothing coming up right at that moment. Now, bottom left, you'll see urgent, not important. And I want to say when we say not important, we're not saying it shouldn't be important for you, because we know like the social media, calls and text messages, they are important. We know the social aspect is, you know, really crucial, especially for students and teenagers. But we're comparing it to your schoolwork and those upcoming deadlines. So your direct messages on social media, incoming texts from your friends, any interruptions, maybe you have to give your little brother a bath, you know, coming up, or any other type of activities. So these are things that are happening now, maybe they're coming up right now, but you don't have to put them at the top of your list. So if you have a test coming up you really need to study for, you may want to focus on that before looking at your direct messages on social media. Then we have the not urgent and not important. So these are things you may do on your own personal time. And once again, not important just means in the context of comparing it to the schoolwork. So you want to make a phone call to your friend or FaceTime. Maybe you want to go on TikTok, social media, any type of time wasters. Now, yesterday, Ms. Whitney Rivera came up with a really good point saying, you know, we know these things are important to you and we totally understand that. And we're not saying they're not. So maybe the best thing to do is carve out an hour of your own free time every week for your watching TV, your video games, your TikTok, and then build the important stuff around it. That way you're getting some you time and you're also getting those urgent and really important things done too. And then if you get all that stuff done, you may be able to have more of the fun time, you know, more than an hour. So it's really just managing your time, getting those really urgent upcoming things done first, and then being able to do what you want on your own personal time too.
All right, so we do want to spend some time talking about procrastination. And I feel like even at times making this presentation, the three of us had our bouts with procrastination as well. When I'm talking about procrastination, I'm talking about things that you are doing to stop yourself from doing the thing that you need to do. So for example, you might have a bunch of digital distractions, some of those non-urgent things Ms. Keogh mentioned before, your computer, your phone, your social media, video games, TV, movies, Netflix, Disney Plus, non-urgent chores and responsibilities that you're doing to stop you from doing the thing that you actually do, or that you need to do. A lot of times with students, this comes in the form of, I have to study for this test, or I have to do my homework, or I have to read this chapter in this book, and you put it off and put it off and put it off until the last possible second, and then you kind of have to cram and do it very quickly, which might not be the most thoughtful and effective way for you to do it. This can become your enemy. It's hard to avoid because as people, we kind of get in this mindset. I know we were talking yesterday and I was saying that to avoid doing something I needed to do, I ended up cleaning my entire bathroom, which is not something I just, love doing, but it's just something, I was like, I'm going to do this so it stops me from doing this for the next hour. And when you come to terms with this, and usually when you procrastinate, you don't realize halfway through it that it's like, oh my goodness, I'm procrastinating. Usually when you're procrastinating, you are aware of it the entire time. So when you are procrastinating and you know it, we would like for you to try to do something like this, is that you set a timer on your phone for 15 to 20 minutes and remove all the distractions from your workspace. This might be something even more precedent now, is like your workspace might also be your bedroom and the place that you hang out. And start focusing, focus on the starting task and sustaining your attention. And once that timer ends, set a timer for 5 to 10 minutes, take a break, and then get back into it. So this is kind of like a nice way to reset and stop yourself from procrastinating, where you kind of realize it, you set a timer, you kind of get yourself in a physical space where you can do your work. So if that means that your bedroom is where you're doing your work, and you have your video game system there, you can try removing yourself from the bedroom and maybe going to the kitchen table and doing your work there, and changing your, spend those 15 to 20 minutes to change your scenery, to change the location, to change the mindset that you're in, and then start focusing on the task at hand that you have to do to kind of like snap yourself out of it. One of the best ways to combat procrastination is with routines. So routines, getting yourself into a routine, doing the same thing at the same time every day, helps create patterns of success. So one really important thing is creating a morning and a nighttime routine, and especially going to bed and waking up at the same times. So as we're doing this hybrid model, there are going to be some days you're coming into the building, and there's going to be some days that you're not. You want to make sure that even on the days that you're not coming into the building, you're still going to bed at the same exact time, because you don't want to go to sleep that day at like 2 in the morning and then have to, get up still at the same time to do your digital learning, and then just keep being perpetually tired over and over and over again. Setting an alarm early so that you can avoid being late for school, whether that's on your phone or you have like an old-fashioned alarm clock. As I'm talking, if students, parents want to drop in the chat of how much time do you think you need in the morning to get ready, you can drop that in, because knowing that answer of how much time it takes you to do your morning routine will give you a good estimate of what time you should be waking up in the morning. If your routine takes 30 minutes and you're only waking up like 10 minutes before you have to get to school, the math there does not add up. This could be, and this is something I do all the time. I can't tell you how many years of going to school and working I had to go through to realize if I made my lunch at nighttime, it was going to be so much easier in the mornings. I wouldn't have to make myself breakfast and then make myself lunch and then do all this extra stuff. Making sure that you eat your breakfast and lunch are also really important. Giving yourself the energy that you need for the day, adding those routines in, giving yourself time to relax after school before jumping into your homework. I always found that this worked really well for me, and I had to actually have a conversation, I remember, with my mother about this, where I didn't want to work the second I got home, and I waited until about 5 o'clock to do it. Took about an hour and a half off, and I just produced better work. So for me, building in this time to relax after school before jumping in really worked for me. And then most importantly is get to sleep early, or get to sleep on a reasonable time. You should be getting somewhere between 7 and 8 hours of sleep to really make yourself productive. And that counts for anyone. That's a kid, that's an adult, because I know if I'm on 5 hours of sleep, I function, I'm less productive than I am when I am, at the 7 to 8 hour mark. And that, I think, is like one of the most earth-shattering things, or the most game-changing things. If you can get a handle on going to sleep early and not fear that you're missing out on, like, oh, this person's on Xbox, or this person's on PlayStation, or I just got this message that I got through. For parents, make sure your students don't take their phones with them to bed. That's also an amazing thing to help them to get to sleep early, because the minute they get a text, they're up and they're on their phones, and the blue light is keeping them up even longer. So just can't stress enough how important that one thing of like getting to sleep early is.
So while we're talking about routine, it's the routines that end up giving you your outcomes. Right? If I have a strong routine, or if I have a strong practice routine, if I'm in the minor leagues, then my what I perform at is going to be really good, and then I'm going to be drafted up to the majors. When we're talking about you guys as students, your kind of stats, your player stats, the things that are going to make you stand out, the things that are going to get you to that next level, really are going to be your grades and that transcript. So when you're in 9th grade now, or if you took advanced classes last year, you started to build this high school transcript. And in this transcript are different courses that you take. It lists the grades that you got. It lists the exams that you took and the grades that you got. It'll give your rank in your graduating class and your overall GPA. When you're doing that, you want to make sure that you're picking things that you're interested in, that start to paint a picture of the type of student you are, the type of student you'll be, and kind of go along with the plan you have for your future. If I always want to be a first baseman, but I'm constantly doing, catching, I'm not really going to be able to be the first base person if I'm a catcher all the time. I need to kind of look at my practice and look at my position and my playing in the position that I think I want to be. So if I think I want to do science, or I think I want to do something in the medical field, when I'm in high school, I want to make sure that any opportunity I get to take a science course or a math course to make my transcript look that much more competitive, I'm going to do. This is kind of like your baseball card, right? It's what you give out to colleges. It's what you're going to give out when you meet. It's what you're going to have admissions officers ask you questions on in your interviews. This is going to be one piece of paper that speaks to what you've accomplished in your 4 years here. So you want to keep that in mind every single time you pick a class, and every single time that you're struggling in a class, because if you need help or you're not doing as well as you'd like, you could always reach out and get the support and still maybe come out on top, even though you may not have started that way.
So a little earlier, Mr. Foe had mentioned something about mindset. You're going to see two different mindsets here. On the right, you're going to see a fixed mindset. So that's, you've already decided you're not good at something. Why am I even going to bother doing this? I wasn't born good at this. I'm not even going to try. And then to the left, you'll see a growth mindset, which that means, you're acknowledging a task can be tough for you. It may be difficult, but you're ready to commit that time, that energy into learning whatever it is, taking on the challenge, and, committing to trying the task. You don't want to sell yourself short. You might even surprise yourself. Taking on a task that you're not really used to, you may actually end up being good at it. Math was always my weakness in high school, but then I took geometry and I excelled in it because it was a different type of math. So even though I went in worrying, I still gave my best effort and ended up doing well. So never sell yourself short. If you put the time in, you'll succeed. And it's just always good to try your best. Don't feel like you can't do anything. I know it's corny, but the sky really is the limit for you guys. Don't feel like you can't do anything. And there's tons of people here to support you and remind you of that along the way.
So for example, when you're talking about a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset, if I wasn't really ever an honors student, don't think that in high school you can't take an advanced placement course and have the opportunity to excel in a subject that you like, that you're interested in, or that you're comfortable with. If I'm a really good artist, you may want to take an advanced placement course in art. We have them in art, we have them in biology, we have computer science, there's foreign languages, social studies, psychology, all different subjects that you can take a risk or take a chance to see if your interests really match your ability. You don't have to be an honor student to be able to register for an advanced placement class. And for those of you who don't know what an advanced placement class is, that's a class that you take that is a college level course that gives you college level work. And if you do well in the final exam, can give you college credit. So it's really a good thing, one, just to make you look like a competitive student, but two, to get the experience to see what is it that you need to do to succeed in college level courses. It'll help you figure out that all that stuff we talked about earlier, your organization, your time management, your routines, your schedules. If you're doing it with college level work already, when you make that transition from high school to college, you will have had practice in high school doing this stuff. Don't get stuck in that mindset that, oh, I'm not an AP kid or I'm not an honors kid, because all of you could be. You just have to find the one subject where you excel.
So in keeping with that, with challenging yourself even more, there are two courses that are offered, and it's called AP Capstone, and then there's two of them. There's AP Seminar, which happens in 10th grade, and then AP Research, which happens in 11th and 12th grade. And I know that it doesn't say that these courses are available to 9th grade, but these are kind of like the, I always say that they're the most college-like courses that we offer. They are structured very similar to college classes, and they're courses that really lead to some really amazing work produced by the students. During your 9th grade year, there are teachers that will kind of like recommend and kind of tell you that this course is available to, and it's available to all students, but it's also something that is you kind of like teachers will recommend you for them because they're very, very challenging. And they, as you can see here, it's taken in place of English 2 honors. So they're really these like high level courses of research. I work with these kids all the time. They spend pretty much about a couple of months coming up with a question and then spending a large portion of their time researching that question. All this stuff is helped guided and led by their teacher. And then really at the end of the year, in addition to taking an AP exam for these courses, they put on their own presentation. In seminar, it's more of a group thing. And then in research, it's more of you doing it yourself. But in both areas, it's really like you're putting on kind of like a really advanced TED Talk where you're up there and it's being filmed and it gets sent into the College Board. These courses are not for like if you're someone who's struggling in just English courses, it may not be there, but these courses are available, and we do offer them, and it's some of the most challenging, rigorous work that you can do, and these kids work really hard all year. Some of them don't even take lunches because they have to fill up their schedule. But it really is the work that they produce. They put in a ton of stuff, but the stuff that they come out with is really amazing work. And just know that these courses, along with the other courses, like even if AP Capstone is not for you, if you're sitting here going like, oh my goodness, I struggle in English, I don't want to take that course, please don't let me do that. As Ms. Rivera said, there are all these other courses available to you. So it's not like, you know, that you have to do every single one of them. And I will say I have met kids that have done every single one of these courses, but these are all here for you. They're here to round out that transcript, that resume, and it's really, it plays to your strengths. So if you're someone who really loves research and you love sitting there and looking at things and looking things up, you know, and you're really good at writing and public speaking, this might be something for you to think about through your 9th grade year, because your 9th grade year will really kind of show your teachers if you are up to the task of a class like this.
The other thing you guys need to realize is, you know, we keep talking about all this stuff, and all these slides are talked about not only just your 9th grade transition and how to be successful, but looking at that whole 4-year process, right? The whole high school experience. Part of it has to do with the fact that if you don't have the information you need to make the choices that you have, you may not make the choice that's right for you. So for example, when I was in high school, I wanted to be a lion tamer. And everyone of my friends thought I was crazy, and they're like, get out of your mind. I said, no, I swear I'm going to do it. And I found a local zoo that I went and I volunteered time at, and I worked with some of the animals. But I didn't decide to do that until I spoke with my school counselor in my senior year. It took a while. It turns out when I finally found the college that had lion taming, I didn't have enough hours, so I couldn't apply to the college. And my whole dream of being a lion tamer was totally gone. Now, had I known that I needed 300 hours of experience working with large animals, then I would have been able to do that earlier on in my career, and I would have been able to get into that school, and maybe I'd be a lion tamer right now and not a district director of guidance. It'd be a totally different life. Because I didn't have the pieces of information I didn't know. Now, obviously by now, I hope you know I was not going to be a lion tamer. But the idea is this: if you have the pieces of information to decide what your choices are, then you get to figure out who you be and the path who you are and the path that you take. So below here we have special endorsements. You're going to go to school, you're going to schedule for your classes, you're going to go through the regular kind of flow, you're going to get involved in different things, you're going to get a little bit more diverse, have some fun along with your academics. But if you do really well, you can get, along with that diploma, honors designation. So if you're getting your advanced region or your Regent diploma and you earn an overall average of 90 or more on your required exams, you can graduate with honors. If you're a really strong math or science student, you can get mastery in math or science by completing your Regent diploma with advanced designation in math or science, and you pass your Regents all with an 85 or better in those science ones, 3 of them. Why does this matter? This matters if I wanted to go to school to be a doctor and I was applying to medical programs, they may want to see that I not only picked challenging courses, but that I excelled in those challenging courses and I had that mastery in math or science. Additionally, there are technical endorsements. So if you think that maybe you want to do something in culinary, you could go to Central and do the culinary program, and you can end up graduating with that technical endorsements for culinary and be able to go on to some of the best institutions for culinary arts just by having that additional thing on your diploma, along with any other technical type of program you may want to do. If you want to be a plumber, a carpenter, an electrician, having that technical endorsement could help you get to the next level if you wanted to join a union hall or go to a technical training school. The final thing on here is your seal up by literacy. Those are for the students who are really, really talented and skilled in foreign language. I was never one of them. I struggled horribly in my foreign language. The minute I could drop it, I did. Which now results in me not being able to understand half the things that my family is saying, because the majority of my family on my husband's side all speak Spanish. Had I continued to take that course, I'd probably be in a better position now, but who knew? Point being, for those of you that are really fluent in another language or just have a knack for it, you can excel with the seal by literacy, and there are requirements for that you have to do in order to get that. All of these things are things that when you meet with your school counselor, you should have conversations about them. If you're a really strong language student and you're interested in, well, what is that seal up by literacy? When you meet with your school counselor, ask them, what are the things I have to do to get a seal up by literacy? If you think that you want to do something in the medical field or even engineering or technology, talk to your counselor and find out what are the kind of, more difficult math courses that I could take or science courses that I could take that help get me where I need to get. All of it is about you kind of having the information and making the decisions to get you where your end game is, what that plan is for you. And it's going to be specific to you based on a variety of different things.
So aside from all these academic options, you're going to have, you also are going to have activities you can join. A good way to get more comfortable and adapted to your surroundings is kind of just immerse yourself in it and get involved in the school community, whether it's a club or an activity. We do have student activity guidebooks or PDFs on the school website, so feel free to check them out, whichever school you are going to be attending in September, whether it's South, North, or Central. Peer tutors and mentors. You know, if you're struggling in a subject, don't be afraid to go to your school counselor and ask them to recommend, you know, a peer tutor or a mentor for you. And then down the line, you may want to be a peer tutor or mentor for someone else. Joining a sport you're good at, being a part of school events like pep rallies. Now this year is going to be a little different, and you know, I know they're still getting together what activities are going to be going on, club schedules, things like that, whether it's remote or in person. But these are all things that, you know, will be made available throughout the school year to you, and you'll know about them. Community service, so whether it's with friends or with a club, you know, doing community service is a great way to get back to your society, make new friends, you know, get close with staff members. But there's a link you'll see, a volunteer guide. So you guys will have access to this presentation afterwards, and you'll be able to click on this, and then you'll be able to see the volunteer guide right there in front of you. Joining things, getting involved in the school is going to help you make connections with your teachers and peers, which is a great way to get more comfortable quicker, you know, in this new high school environment.
What this all ends up rounding up to is eventually your activities resume. So many of you may have heard of a resume before. It's a very adult word. It's what people put together when they're trying to get a job in the adult world. But believe it or not, when you're trying to figure out what makes you three-dimensional, what makes you stand out, what makes you unique, just besides those good grades, this is a great place to kind of mark those things down. The activities resume is going to outline all the honors and awards you got, the certificates and seals that you got throughout your high school career, educational programs that you did or opportunities, if you did a summer study program, if you did an internship somewhere, any clubs or activities you were a part of, including any positions you held. You know, you might have been on student government, you may have been the vice president, you might have been the president, you might have been the captain of a sport team, you might have been the equipment director. You could have been on the play and done something with the crew. Any of the clubs or activities that you did along with the positions you held, you want to make sure is on that resume. Additionally, some of us aren't able to get as involved as we'd like because we have other responsibilities and we're required to work. Work is absolutely something that can go on that activities resume. It's something that helps you stand out as a student and shows kind of your dedication, your perseverance, and your ability to multitask and still excel at work while excel in school while doing other things. Additionally, you can enlist community service. Now, these things are not things that you should start going out and checking to do, so you can make sure you do every single one of them. Like Mr. Toffolo mentioned earlier, you could sign up for every single AP course if you want, but if you don't do well in them, that's not going to look so good. So you want to be really specific in the courses that you pick and the activities that you pick, and make sure they go along with the things that you like to do. If you don't like animals, do not volunteer at Rough House Rescue to go walk dogs, because you're not going to like it. You're probably not going to do it for a long time. And if they ever reach out for a recommendation about you, they may not have such great things to say if it wasn't something you did with your whole heart. You want to make sure you're involved. You want to make sure you make yourself three-dimensional. You want to make sure you stand out, but you want to have fun while doing it. High school is a lot of studying. It's a lot of work. Preparing for college is even more. But the thing you should make sure that you're doing in all of this is enjoying it. Because if you're not enjoying it, you're not going to do well at it. You're not going to excel. So you need to find something fun in everything. Your activities resume, you will work on throughout the 4 years that you are in high school. You'll add things. Your counselors will go over with you how to put that together. And depending on what application you use for college, you may end up just putting that stuff right into the application. But it's a good way to start writing down the things you're doing so you can remember the positions you held, the activities you did, the awards you got, even if you write it down on a piece of paper.
So, you know, as we've mentioned, transitioning to high school can be confusing, intimidating, really stressful. You may feel like you're starting to burn out or getting overwhelmed. When you need help, we want you to be able to ask for it. Self-advocacy, which we talked about a little bit earlier, I know Mr. Toffolo touched on it. That's going to be a really crucial skill for you. It's an independent skill, you know, that you'll work on throughout your high school years. But there's tons of people, you know, in the building. I know you have family, parents, guardians that all want to support you. You have your school counselor you can go to. We have social workers in our building, psychologists such as myself. Maybe you feel comfortable with the school nurse, or maybe there's a teacher you feel really connected to that can kind of help navigate the next steps of getting you the help or support you need. But we have tons of resources and support, so never be afraid to ask for help, because we'll always help you in any way we can. If the problem is more academic based, speak with your school counselor, talk about getting a peer tutor or a mentor. Make sure you're attending that extra help with your teachers, whether it's remote or in person. Ask a friend for help. You know, if you have a best friend that's really good at math, and that's your weakness, but you're really good at English, that's their weakness. Help each other, you know, build off each other's strengths and weaknesses and work together. That will make the tutoring a little bit more fun, and you'll be able to do it with a friend. If you have a tough schedule after school, you know, talk to your school counselor, talk to your teacher. There's tons of people that will help you figure it out. You may be eager to join a bunch of things, but then realize maybe it's a little too much. Just talk it out with someone, because no matter what, we'll find a way to help you. And I do want to ask you guys, you know, in middle school years, if you had someone that you always use as your go-to support system. You don't have to put any names. You could put a school position. Maybe it's your parent or guardian, a family member or a sibling. But it's always important to have at least one person you can go to and feel comfortable talking to, whether it's in school and out of school. It's good to have both. And then we also want to say to give yourself some slack. I know we gave you a lot of information throughout the course of the slides. I hope you're not feeling too overwhelmed, but just remember, we wanted to give you this information, but you're always going to have someone to guide you and help you through the process. Your teachers, school counselors, anyone else in the building, you know, we're all happy to help you. You know, every student's going to find themselves being confused and overwhelmed, especially in these circumstances we are returning to, you know, coming back from this pandemic. There's going to be stressors. Try not to get too upset at yourself or frustrated, not getting the hang of 9th grade right away. As you're showing up to your classes, establishing a routine, keeping yourself organized, it will get easier and it will feel more normal. And just keep monitoring your own performance. You know, if you start realizing your grades are dropping in a certain class, just kind of look at yourself. Maybe you're not spending enough time on that class homework, and you're spending more time in a class you enjoy but are already excelling in. Maybe you just have too much on your plate. Maybe you need to take something that's non-essential off. You know, talk to your parent or guardian, talk to your school counselor. How can I rework my schedule to make this easier for me? But we really just want you to give yourself a break. And, you know, we know transitions can be difficult, even if it doesn't feel like it, because you're staying in the same building. Like Mr. Toffolo said, it's like an invisible transition. It is a big step, but you have people here to guide you along the way. If you guys have any tips or strategies, what helps you check yourself when you realize you're not doing so well, whether it's putting that phone away, maybe having your mom take away your video games because you know that you're going to want to do them instead. We always want to hear what you guys have to say and kind of what works for you. But we just want to say, you know, take a deep breath. We're all here to support you, and, you know, welcome to your new high school career.
Thomas Edison said that many of life's failures are people who do not realize how close they were to success when they gave up. Don't give up.
I like that one. That's a good one. I put that in my office or bumper sticker.
All right, so we've reached, we're near the end here, and you guys, you all got a ton of information, but really what we want to know here now at the end is, we talked in the beginning about, you know, what you're expecting to experience in high school, but after hearing all this information, we want to know, what are you most excited for after hearing everything? What are you most excited for in your first year of high school? Is it joining a club? Is it using your new device, seeing your classmates, taking challenging classes, or is it something else as well? Give you a couple more seconds for all answers in here. All right. So we've got some people saying that they'd like to join a club or a sport is the most exciting thing. Seeing your classmates and using your device. And I can tell you, as someone who has been using the device you're going to get, they are pretty awesome. I think actually, can I share the results? Hey, there we go.
Yeah.
It's pretty even, actually.
All right. Yeah, it's pretty even. So with that said, as we've indicated a couple of times, this presentation is going to be available for download after it's over. And we'll share out the slides with you, which will make these links be clickable for you. They will just take you more to websites that kind of go more in depth on the transition from middle school to high school, and just more resources for you to kind of look at if you wanted to dig a little bit deeper into this.
And then if you guys have any questions that we didn't cover that you want to know, you can write them in the chat